3 of our members were replaced, and that ended up with 2 of our officers not being vacant, or 2 of the offices being vacant. And I guess a way to do it, or not I guess, I think the proper way to do it, the remaining officer, which is Mr. Adam Hall, who was the secretary, would act as the facilitator, and that we would hold a election of all officers for the positions, if that's the desire of the board. And since I'm not a board member, I can't vote, but I'm simply suggesting that we proceed that way. And could I hear from the board members whether that's okay to proceed that way?
I'm in favor.
I'm okay.
I'm in favor.
I as well.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So, Mr. Hall, you are the remaining officer, and the first item on the agenda is the election of officers.
Yeah.
So why don't you act as the facilitator and
Okay.
do that, follow through with that process.
All right. So good afternoon, everyone. The regular meeting of the Gary Redevelopment Commission for Wednesday, May 6, 2020 is now called to order. Knock on wood. Can I have a roll call, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Hall,
We know he was here.
he's blank now. Okay, Commissioner King,
Here.
Commissioner Rogie,
Virtually here.
okay, Commissioner Reeves.
Here.
All righty. Let it be noted that all are present.
You have a quorum, Mr. Hall, so you can proceed.
There we go. Sorry, I had a technical error there.
That's the new norm.
Okay, so can we have a roll call? Or did we do that without me?
Yeah.
It occurred without you.
I'm sorry. Well, present. Okay, so with 5 members present, we have a quorum to conduct business of the Redevelopment Commission. First order of business is to elect new president for the commission. And can I have nominees, please?
I would like to nominate Eric E. Reeves for president.
Okay, we have 1 nomination for Eric Reeves. Any other nominations? All right, hearing none, we move to a vote. And can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogie,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. Mr. Reeves is now president, and I turn the meeting over to him.
You could have continued to do the vice president.
You have to vote.
Oh, okay. I'm having fun. Right, so can we have nominees for the vice presidency?
I'd like to nominate George Rogie.
Right, George Rogie is nominated. Any others? And seeing none, let's move to a vote. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogie,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
Motion to
All right.
all
Mr.
yes.
Rogie is now vice president of the commission. Now, can I turn it over?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
Eric, it's yours.
thank you, Commissioner Hall, and thank you, and excuse me for not looking up at you as I read my script here. Thank you for nominating me as president for the Recommission Board. Now it's time to have a little fun, so I'm going to go to number 4. Certification of record of executive session held May 6, 2020. Statement of executive session, I hereby certify that nothing has been discussed in the executive session held immediately before this open meeting, accept those items specified and listed in the notice. And then I go on to number 5, right? But there's no, I don't have no vote or anything there. Number 5, request.
Excuse me.
Roll call.
Is there a
Yeah,
vote?
there's a vote on the acceptance of the executive session.
Session, okay. Right, we sit there, okay. So, have a motion to accept the statement of executive session, please.
I move to accept.
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Roby,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes,
Motion is carried.
thank you. So now I'll go on to number 5. Request for approval of resolution number 7028, a resolution approving the execution of a second extension of contract for professional services contract with Michael Baker International, Inc., MBI, for technical services. Overview, Mr. Bittner.
Yes. As the board's familiar, Michael Baker International is working on several projects for the city, ranging anywhere from local tracks to the Marquette Trail, to assisting us in trying to find ways to help in economic development, both in Buffington Harbor as well as 11th and Chase Street Bridge. For kind of various kind of technical services. They also previously had worked on the comprehensive plan for the city, and originally back in December we had extended their contract not for the dollar amount but for the time to expend those funds. This is a similar contract to where we're not asking for additional funds of the contract, but to extend the ability to expend those funds by the end of the calendar year 2020.
The board has heard an overview from Mr. Bittner. What's the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second? Was there a second?
Yeah, I seconded.
Okay. Moved and properly second. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Roby,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Going on to number 6, request for approval of resolution number 7029, a resolution approving authorizing the extension of a demolition agreement for C&D disposal services with Republic Services DBA Allied Waste. Overview, Mr. Bittner.
Yes, I'll actually cede my time to Deputy Director Carol Pirtle. She has a more robust update than I will, so I'll cede my time to her.
Okay, thank you.
So we are asking for a extension of this contract. The contract had ended on April of this year. The extension is asked for because that we have monies left on the PO to extend out to July so that we will have our demolition guys to be able to dump at Republic through the end of July, so that we, after that, can put out a new RFQ due to the fact that the rates have increased for Republic, and then we need to put out a new RFQ with the new rates that they may be able to bid again. Therefore, we are asking for the extension to finish out the PO at the current rate that we have with Republic at this time.
Thank you, Carol. What's the board's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, sir. Mr. King? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hall. Moved and properly second. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Roby,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Going on to number 7, request for approval of resolution number 7030, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a contract with Dynamo Metrics to provide data analysis and decision support for comprehensive planning. Overview, Mr. Bittner.
Yes, and we have representatives from Dynamo Metrics here, both Nigel and Matt. And before I turn it over to them, just want to say that they've been working with the city for quite a while. They were kind of taking the lead in the analytics side for the comprehensive plan. They had been on board, created the GSTADS program prior to that, and have done a substantial amount of work in collaborating with both planning, redevelopment, as well as the GIS department. And what I'm asking of the board today is to review the contract, ask questions of the representatives from Dynamometric, and we'll look to have a vote at the next meeting. But we wanted to introduce this and have ample time for review and kind of finalize any questions we may have for the contract. But because of COVID-19, I think it's a prudent to review and take the time for everyone to get a better understanding of what the product and software as a service that they're offering, and to ask questions to them for a potential vote at the next regularly scheduled redevelopment commission meeting. So with that, I'll turn it over to Nigel and Matt of Dynamometrics.
Hi, everyone. Appreciate the time here. Appreciate the opportunity to talk. Nice to see you, Geraldine.
Hi, Nigel.
We've been working with the city of Gary for quite some time. Joe Van Dyke brought us in 2015. It was May of 2015 that we started working with the city. My co-founder Ben and I, our background, he found us at the time when the U.S. Treasury was releasing resources for demolition activity of blight. We had done some national level research that my background is as an economist, my co-founder Ben is a data scientist, and we were building data systems, property level data systems that allowed us to understand in near real time the location of vacancy, identification of blight, different things like this, as well as resources that were flowing into Gary for blight elimination purposes. Basically building those data sets, like establishing relationships at the county level with Mayor Prince at the time when he was at the county. We established a very strong relationship with him. So tax and assessment data could flow from the county to the city and inform property level decision making. We also worked with Martin Brown. So we have a very deep relationship with the mayor. That was brought to bear right before kind of COVID hit the fan with AJ and the mayor. We sat down, and that's where we kind of came to yes on this next stage, or to put this before you all. What we've done over the last 5 years, we've worked on the comp plan and done the analysis there, and built the parcel level data systems in the city. They call it GSTADS, the Space-Time Analytics Data System, effectively for Joe and team to, Jack Eskin was also part of that team, working with Martin Brown as well, to basically assess land use decision-making processes and helping build out the comprehensive plan. What we've done now at Dynamo over the years of working with Gary and others is we've turned that into a software system. So a lot of that parcel level time series data will continue flowing through the county. I've been in touch with Martin Brown as well. He's reached out. The GSD data will continue to flow. We integrate that into a platform that it's usable by AJ and team and others to quickly pull out shape files and data to inform decision making. Specifically, what the tool will allow is a public platform. We've worked pretty extensively with AJ kind of scoping this. It's a public platform that shows all the properties that are available that the city owns, and all properties that have been sold by the city. So it's been used very highly as an economic development tool, as well as a planning tool. And so that's what we're putting forward effectively. Is it's an annual licensure to a cloud-based software now. It's what we used to deliver as a consulting product. It's now put in the form of software where we have customer service and help you all execute your needs with very highly powerful integrated property data. So that's what we're working to deliver back to the city. So I'd love to answer questions about it. We've served up some materials to AJ that have kind of an overview of what we've done. some of the history, but also the product going forward and the ways it can get utilized within the city going forward with AJ's team. So we're hoping to basically turn it back on, right? The relationships are established. We have a strong relationship with the mayor, strong relationship with AJ. And once we reestablish contacts, Martin has made it very clear over in GSD that it'll be pretty easy for us to basically get those data feeds moving again and have very refined property level intelligence for the city once again. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead, Adam.
Do you serve the data, or are you simply, acting as a third party outside of that?
No, we serve up the data. So the data is on the platform. You can export the data directly off of the platform, either in CSV format, and it's integrated and refined. So it's every single property. You can get it in a CSV format, like a tabular format for deeper analytics on site if you want, or it can come in a shapefile. So all data, we basically grab the input feed. We tap directly into the database at the county level and GSD and with the city. And we integrate that data, we timestamp it and geolocate it in every time period. And so you can interact with that on the software on the front end, but you also can pull that data and do deeper analysis. So Martin's very excited about it. Martin Brown, I've talked to him a couple times about it, and now that we have a software, we didn't have a software for all these years when we were working with Martin. We were just doing independent analysis with the outputs. But now we have a software where Martin can jump on that platform and actually export shape files and do deeper analysis on site on the fly. So he's pretty excited about that component of things.
So when you say it's available, is there a link from the new Gary city site, or how is that accessed?
So Neighborhood Intel is the name of the product. Neighborhood Intel has a login site effectively, and you all, anybody that wants a login internally gets a login. It's basically a domain component, right? So if you have a Gary email, you can get onto the Neighborhood Intel platform. But there's also a publicly available platform. That's the other piece of this, where anybody can get a login effectively, but it's much more limited. The data is very powerful because it's property level. All the information that the city has and the county has, you have on every single property in a time series. So the public portal will have a limited version of that, where you can basically see what's available, right? So we've been working with AJ to kind of define exactly what we want to show out to the public to market economic development opportunities and those pieces. Whereas the full system is more of a strategic internal decision-making tool. And you can kind of, you can throttle how much information you want to put out and make available all the way out, so.
The document that was furnished, I don't know if maybe it was a problem technically, but there were a couple of big blanks of what looked like they would be graphs or some of the data in it. Is that just on my side?
Oh shoot. Okay. Let us make sure.
Yeah,
you have very
I don't
clean.
believe that there were any issues with that. Anybody else experience that got the document?
No, I didn't.
Okay. I'll try it on maybe a different machine and see what went wrong.
Please circle back if you have any, if it continues.
Okay.
We'll
it
make
looks
sure.
like the interesting stuff.
Yeah, we're very passionate about this work. We keep local units of government as our client, and so that's our primary. We serve the public. Very purpose-driven company. Our goal is definitely to deliver your own data in a format that is usable by your cities, because there's very powerful information at the property level that lives in these data silos, isn't put together in a way that it can actually get utilized and leveraged to understand your city and make decisions that are well informed for the different parts of your cities. And as we all know, there's a lot of vacant land in the city of Gary, and a lot of homes that are beyond repair. And this system will allow a detailed property level understanding of where those are at and their status, and allow a platform where they can be redeveloped, revitalized at the neighborhood scale. So that is our hope, to deliver that back.
So what you were just speaking on, is that something that's already accessible, or is that what you're going to be working on in the future?
There are some static versions of what we've built in the past that weren't kind of our finalized software platform. They're kind of one-off versions. I believe it's in the Gary Counts website. There's some of it that's in the Gary Counts website that were productions of our past work over the last 5 years. The new platform, I'm sorry, say your question one more time.
I was asking, is this something that that's accessible now?
I got it. Yeah.
Okay.
So Gary Counts, there's some accessibility, but it's old data and it's static data that is kind of for specific purposes. Like I think there's some economic development work in there. There's and it serves up maps for economic development purposes or different indexing. The new version of the software that has real-time feeds, that will take a small installation time. So what we'll do is reestablish those feeds of data so that you have up-to-date data from the county and up-to-date data, up-to-date city data, and other pieces, so that it's the latest information. Then we transform that and serve it up into the current platform. And then it updates on the regular once those data feeds are established. So the installation and launch of the new version will probably, it usually takes about 90 days to have it full functioning.
Okay, that was my next question. So about 90 days till it's fully functioning.
That's right.
For sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Nigel, to that point about having live feeds and updated data over time, maybe talk about one of the examples of, I think for our purposes, understanding like tax delinquency over time or something similar of, how we could potentially use that as a powerful tool in decision-making processes.
Absolutely. So understanding time series and tax delinquency, or the GSD data is also really powerful having it in a time series, because you get to track the change in occupancy. For the GSD side, if we see that there's no water being used or no trash being picked up, we deduce that there's a vacancy on that property that wasn't there before. So you get, through the billing, we can learn and see quickly. When it comes to things like tax delinquency, watching the spread of tax delinquency and tracking it year by year and seeing it go into actual forfeiture, and if that's spreading in certain areas, targeting and identifying places where you might be able to deliver programming to folks who are tax delinquent that want to stay in their home and are doing everything they can. The way that it'll get used in like Battle Creek, for example, the way a community development director uses it there is he uses it to target very specifically his tax delinquency resourcing programs. So he'll outreach, he'll deduce the areas and identify at the property level folks, the amount they're delinquent and how far delinquent they are, and help deliver programs that will help keep folks in their homes, right? So that's a specific way. Seeing change, but we also have change layers, so you can actually see change year to year if the mortgage foreclosure rates are increasing in different hotspots of the city, and how you want to plan around that. Seeing that in the context of other vacant land in the area, for example. The way Joe used it a lot was to inform decision-making in hyper-localized spaces around understanding delinquency, forfeiture. Yeah. Is that okay?
Hi, Nigel. I have a quick question for you. So this sounds more as going to be like software as a service, web-based. Is there any plans to bring it to a mobile app so it can be more mobile?
There are some components that lend itself to a mobile app. We have kind of like, it's a code enforcement tool that comes in, and that's more of a mobile app. It's best fit on like an iPad. But basically it's the same tool, but it's been formatted in a version for code enforcement officers. So when folks are in the field, it's more tactical. Like you have decision support and strategy with the big neighborhood intel uses often, right? In economic development, community development. But on a tactical day-to-day, we have a version that is targeted specifically at code enforcement officers. And, you know, when they're going, they can load in all the places they're going to inspect that day and get from all the different databases the information about the property they're going to go to. So they have a more informed look at when they walk in the door, right? So that's a mobile app version of it. We're also moving in a direction for a surveying tool where you can actually go to each individual property and crack a picture and, you know, put in information about that property. That's not out yet, but that is one of our developments. Because as a software as a service, it's always like tools are developing onto the base, right? And so
I have a question. I'm sorry. Does the code enforcement tool on them exiting the property, does that have any applications to it? You know, input, so they leave and they say, okay, I found this, this, and this, or it's just for.
So there's permits. So it depends on the data feeds that we have from the city, and we get what our standard install takes all your code enforcement data. So if we have inspection data and we have permit data, like where the code enforcement tool is fully functioning in Jackson, Michigan, we have all the current permit data. So you can actually turn on the current permits data, click on any where they show up. You have permits by type, and you can click on them and see permits open.
Right.
Like so what the code enforcement officers will do is they'll drive by, and if they see like a construction crew putting on a deck, for example, they'll open up the software and see if there's a permit pulled. And if there's not one pulled, they'll walk up and say, you guys have a permit pulled. And so that kind of thing will happen because that data is so fresh in the system.
Right. It's not meant to be an operating system, though, where things are being captured and stored. It's meant to be more directional in nature to help people plan their days, be more efficient when they're out in the field doing code enforcement activities.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So, Mr. Bentner, do we need a vote on this? You said that we were voting later?
Right. I would just, and Gail, correct me if I'm wrong, just to defer until the next meeting for a decision.
Yeah, I think that's what we had talked about doing earlier.
So you need a motion to defer, correct?
Correct.
I asked for a motion to defer, please.
Second.
Okay, moved and properly second. And are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, please, ma'am.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
I did. King. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Roby,
Yes.
Commissioner Roby.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to number 8, request for approval of resolution number 7031, a resolution authorizing to refund Kurt E. Downing insurance payments for the required demolition at 3716 Marshall Place in Glen Park area of the city of Gary. Overview, Mr. Bentner.
Yes. Carol Pirtle will be giving the overview on this resolution 7031.
Okay,
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
thanks.
Nigel. Thanks,
Carol
Matt.
Pirtle?
Okay, so at 3716 Marshall, what happened is the property was burnt down. The insurance company, State Farm, sent the check out to the city of Gary. What happens is when properties burn down in the city of Gary, we have the program here in the city that the insurance company, if they have insurance on the property, the checks has a demolition fee that comes out. The insurance company sends a check to the city of Gary. So what happens is to ensure that the property either gets rehabbed or demolished, the check comes here. So either the homeowner has to either demolish the property or the city of Gary has to. So the homeowner elected to demolish the property himself. The property was totally demolished. The property was inspected by Mr. Cedric Kirkendall. Everything was done in order and up to the grade for the city of Gary. Therefore, we are now refunding the insurance check back to the homeowner.
Wait a minute. Question, you said subject Kirkendall demolished it?
No. The homeowner demolished the property. Mr. Kirkendall inspected the property to make sure it was done correctly.
Okay. What is,
So-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
So is this amount on here? This is what the 13,000 is what the insurance company paid to the city?
Yes,
Okay. And we're just reimbursing it back.
we're just reimbursing the insurance check back. Yes.
Any other questions or comments? What is the board's pleasure?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Any comments or questions, additional ones? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call, Madam Clerk. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogie,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Request, going on, thank you. Going number 9, request for approval of resolution number 7032, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a third extension with DG Partners LLC, purchase agreement for the sale of certain property commonly referred to as 1301 Broadway Street, Gary, Indiana. Overview, Mr. Bittner.
Yes. This was an agreement that was entered into in February, I believe February of 2019, due to some surprises below subgrade, one being a abandoned sewer line that wasn't on any maps, pushed out their original due diligence period. And the Dollar General is continuing to work through that and has been informed that we would hope that this would be the last extension granted, and followed up with them, and they had requested a extension until June 1, and considering it was a Monday, we put in a June 5th contract expiration date. And I believe I see a phone number on there. Ryan Peters from the real estate broker on this deal was going to call in. Ryan, is that you who had dialed in?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. And Ryan, could you give an update as the broker on the deal from the buyers?
Yeah, they've continued to move forward. He told all of his contractors end of last week, this is the date referring to June 5th. So that everybody knows that that's kind of the end of times. So we're hoping to get this thing closed and continue forward, and they're ready to start construction as soon as it's closed, I think. So assuming all permitting is in place and whatnot. So, yep.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Peters?
I do not.
Is there anything about the current situation that would jeopardize the timing on this?
No, I think there was some holdup with some city approvals that they were working on, but as far as the real estate side of things, everything looks to be ready to close. So financing is good, planning all looks good, boxes are getting checked off. So
This is Gilbert King. Are you aware of the specific city approvals that are still outstanding?
I'm not. I know there's been emails back and off the top of my head. I couldn't tell you what it is. I apologize. I just walked out of another meeting. So, but I know there's been communication back and forth between AJ and both the engineer and myself in regards to making sure things were progressing. So I can't tell you off the top of my head what that last approval they were waiting on was.
Okay, as a follow-up to this meeting and us acting on this, can you get to AJ exactly what is needed to be done by the city? What's out there?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. What's
I
the
move
board?
to accept the motion, the resolution.
Okay, may I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it's moved and properly seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
No.
Commissioner Rogie,
yes,
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Okay. Go on to number 10.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Request for approval of resolution number 7033, a resolution approving an extension to the project and purchase agreement between the Gary Redevelopment Commission and MDAH Holding LLC for the building and developing of the project commonly referred to as the Broadway Loft. Overview, Mr. Bittner.
Yes. As with the previous deal, there were some unforeseen circumstances that held up the closing of this property. Initially, MVH Partners was hoping to have approval for phase 2 through tax credits. However, that has not transpired, so they're moving forward with phase 1 of the project, and they anticipate closing in the middle of June. So we're asking for a 90-day extension, even though it's more than they're requesting, in order to facilitate that closing in case any other issues may occur with the kind of approval process for a deal as complex as a tax credit project.
Okay, hearing the overview, what's the board's pleasure?
Move to accept the resolution.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved and properly second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogie,
Yes,
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes,
Motion is carried.
thank you. Number 11, request for approval of resolution number 7034, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a 90-day extension of a ground lease and agreement between the City of Gary Redevelopment Commission and Regional Growth Capital LLC for the lease of certain scattered sites in Lake Sandy Joe. Overview, Mr. Bittner.
Yes. Lake Sandy Joe, as you're aware, is approximately on 25th and Chase. This is a scattered site deal with the largest parcel being the former Lake Sandy, Sandy Joe dumping site with over 100 scattered site, what we'll say is typically normal 25 by 125 foot lots in the city of Gary that was put out for bid last year with Regional Growth Capital being the sole responsive and responsible bidder. Originally scheduled to close earlier this winter. However, due to some issues with gaining access to the site for environmental review, as well as the COVID-19 crisis and title work exceptions that need to be cleared up prior to their ability to close, they're requesting a 90-day extension in order to help facilitate these due diligence items necessary before closing.
The board has heard an overview by Mr. Bittner. What is the board's pleasure?
I'll move to accept the resolution.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Moved and properly second. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogie,
yes,
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes,
Motion is carried.
thank you. Moving on to number 12, request for approval of resolution number 7035, a resolution authorizing the execution of a professional services contract with J&B West Roofing and Construction to maintain and repair the stadium's roof at the Railcats Baseball Stadium in the city of Gary. Overview, Mr. Bittner.
Yes. What you have in front of you is a resolution to approve the J&B West Roofing Construction. It is to repair 8 panels on the roof of the Railcat Stadium, which is owned by the Redevelopment Commission, and is a repairs necessary in order to avoid a much larger bill. 3 contractors were engaged, and after review, J&B West Roofing and Construction was found to be the lowest most responsive and responsive for bidder to receiving quotes.
The board has heard an overview by Mr. Vintner. What is the board's pleasure?
I'll move to accept the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and properly second. If there aren't any comments or questions, hearing none, seeing none, roll call, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogie,
yes,
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes,
Motion's carried.
great. Let's go on to number 13, request for approval of resolution number 7036, a resolution authorizing the execution of professional service contract with Parkway Mechanical preventative maintenance to the stadium's rooftop RTUs at the Rail Cats Baseball Stadium in the city of Gary. Overview, Mr. Bittner.
Yes, this is for HVAC repair work on the Railcat Stadium. As with the previous request, these are items for the stadium which we own. The total contract amount is $19,376. This was previously discussed at the board meeting. However, at the time, they didn't have the 3 quotes from the bidders, and Parkway was found to be the most, for the scope of work, the most responsive bidder. So I'd recommend approval of this quote.
Okay, the board has heard an overview by Mr. Bittner. What is the board's pleasure?
Move to accept the resolution.
I actually had a question.
Okay,
Can I ask, so we own the stadium, correct? The redevelopment.
that is correct.
So my question is, so there's an owner to the baseball team that's using the stadium, correct?
That is correct.
So can I ask if we're familiar with any funds that, or any expenses that he covers ever? Or he or she rather, 'cause I don't know.
Well, yeah, so Salvi, the company that owns the baseball stadium is responsible for some things, but contractually, we, the city of Gary, and the Redevelopment Commission are contractually responsible for most leasehold improvements and owner improvements. So very little, Jeremiah.
So yeah, I understand that part. I was just curious.
Yeah. No, for years, nobody has been happy with this contract. I mean, going back from probably right after it was first signed, the previous administration looked for ways to get around it, and they could not. So pretty much it's our asset. So, we are obligated to keep it nice, and we want to keep it nice because it is an asset.
For sure. So when does the contract expire?
AJ?
I'm not sure. But I think we just renewed it recently, so it's.
And we renewed it? Oh, no.
Yeah, they had provisions in there for renewal and then another renewal. I think we're at least 5 years out before that comes up again.
Right, and the city built the stadium, so the city owns the
I understand that part. I was just asking. It's all good. Thank y'all.
Okay. Any other questions?
I don't think the contract was that recent, or the renewal. We would have seen it, right? And we haven't in the last year.
Okay, maybe it was something else that we did with the stadium. Seems like the stadium comes up so often.
If it was a renewal, it would have probably been an automatic renewal of the lease, and that was prior to my tenure with the city. But we can give a report to the board as far as when the contract was originally entered into and what the length of the terms are, and when the options for renewals do exist. So we can bring that back up in front of the board.
Yeah, that'd be great, AJ, for the satisfaction of the new board members so they can get an understanding of the ins and outs of that contract that nobody likes.
Sure. Deb, can you put that on your list?
Yep, got it.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, Madam Secretary.
Can't hear you. Yes.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogie,
yes,
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Okay, let's move on to number 14, request for approval of resolution number 7037, a resolution authorizing the execution of a professional service contract with American Eagle Security, Inc. to bring the stadium safety equipment to fire code and to pass both local and state inspections at the Railcats Baseball Stadium in the city of Gary. Overview, Mr. Bittner.
This is a little bit different than the previous request. This is something that just came up with the fire inspector, and a lot of this equipment is 15 to 20 years old, or is almost as old as the stadium itself. And in discussions with Brian Leiter of the Railcats, unless these fire and safety items are taken care of in the immediate future, it will cause an added expense, which will eventually come to the feet of the city due to the safety concerns and have requiring certain fire and EMS personnel to be there. So with that being said, the contract for $15,407 is requested to be approved on an emergency basis in order to meet the state fire inspection so that they can open the stadium when they're allowed to by the governor's executive order. Gil, did you have any other comments as far as that was concerned?
No, just the comments that were added by Brian and what you said, I think pretty much covers the subject.
The board has had an overview by Mr. Bittner. What's the board's pleasure?
I make a motion,
Second.
Second?
A motion to approve, George?
yes,
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been properly, any questions? Okay, it's properly moved in second. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Mr. Rogie,
yes,
Mr. Reeves.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you. Moving on to number 15, request for approval of resolution number 7038, a resolution authorizing and approving the fiscal officer of the city of Gary to take a temporary interphone loan from the Midwest Center TIF Fund 828 to the non-reverting TIF Fund 474. Overview, Mr. Bittner.
Sure. Just one correction on that. The non-reverting fund is not a TIF fund on the agenda. That is just a non-reverting fund. Is not the source of that is various property sales and lease rentals for the city. But the overview for the resolution itself is a temporary interfund loan in order to complete both title as well as legal work for the parcels that were donated by the county commissioners. And once we have that legal work completed and a few of the property sales that are currently pending, we will be able to pay back the Midwest Center TIF. And because of the timeliness of the nature needed for the legal work, because of the truncated timeline of notice and everything that goes along with the parcels that were granted to us by the county commissioners, need to pay our attorneys as well as our title company in a timely fashion so that we actually are able to take title of those properties and then put them back on the tax rolls.
Thank you, Mr. Bittner. The board has heard an overview from Mr. Bittner. What's the board's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Well, second.
Okay, moved and properly second. Are there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, hearing none. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogie,
yes,
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Okay, let's move on to number 16. Request for approval to allow the City of Gary Law Department to act on behalf of Gary Redevelopment Commission for property disposition on the US 12 and 20 project. Overview, Mr. Bittner.
As the board is aware, we're currently working with both INDOT and NICD and various other partners for both the double tracking project as well as the new 12 and 20 split. And the Redevelopment Commission owns several parcels along Melton Road as well as State Road 12. And as part of that, there's certain parts of additional right-of-way that are being granted to accommodate this. The city's law department, after discussion with them, asked me to get permission from the board for the city's law department to act on behalf, and also had spoken with Gil about this, so that we have the city's law department acting on behalf of both the city's own parcels as well as the Redevelopment Commission's parcels to help keep the process moving and do so in an expeditious fashion, since Mr. Pohl is handling the parcels for the city. So just asking for a simple roll call vote to affirm that the city law department can act on our behalf in this regard.
I have a question. I'd just like to know what our attorney thinks of that.
Oh, I'm in 100% in favor of it. I've talked to them about it. I know that the details of and the issues involved in it, and they've agreed to go ahead and process it, and they'll keep us abreast of what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
I make the motion to approve.
A second.
Okay, any questions, any other comments? Okay, moving in properly second. Hearing no additional comments or questions, roll call, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogie,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Public comments, number 17. There's no public on the line. Let me see. Let me move my little dial. No Jim the Wacky. Nobody. Oh boy, this is just wonderful. Just wonderful. So we're going to just go right past that one and go right to the next one. Report from AJ Bittner, Executive Director. Do you have any reports, Mr. Bittner?
Yes, to report, I'm going to do them slightly out of order. As requested, we are updating the calendar for the Redevelopment Commission and moving back to 2 meetings a month. And those meetings will be the first and third Wednesdays of the month. And we'll also be moving the location of the meetings, with the executive sessions being held in the Cleo Wesson Lounge and the regularly scheduled meetings being held in the council chambers. So there'll be a little bit more room for both the board as well as the public, and hopefully have some more audio-visual aids, once the AV department is finished those improvements.
Is this the time where we start singing "Moving On Up"?
Mm-hmm.
Will we still be able to participate? Will we still be able to participate via Zoom or some other remote access?
Yeah.
Well, for the time being, yes.
Yeah.
Once we're back to the normal rules, one of the things that Gilbert and I had discussed, we will need to update our policy on telephonic meetings, which the state law does allow for us to do. However, we have to adopt those into our rules of procedure for those cases. So that's something that, and I know Gil's working on a couple of the other updates from the state law. So that'll be something that, especially as we have a majority new board, we'd like to introduce during this calendar year, because the last Redevelopment Commission update for our rules and policies, I believe, was like substantially in 2014. So it's time to update those for some of the changes that have occurred in Indiana law, as well as with just kind of priorities of the city. So I believe, Jerry, you sent out the updated calendar, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So what I'm asking the board to do is to ratify what Jerry had sent out, so that she can send the updated meeting dates to all of the newspapers, as well as have that posted on the city's website.
I don't think I got that. So it's just, but it's first and third Wednesdays?
First and third Wednesdays of the month besides July, because the first Wednesday fell on the 4th of July week. So what we did was, instead of it being the 1st and the 15th, we scheduled it for the 8th and the 22nd because there's actually 5 weeks in July.
Okay.
Other than that, none of the 1st and 3rd fell on any holidays or, weeks after holidays, I believe.
Okay, thanks. You have another item on there, Gary, Economic Development Commission Annual Report?
Yes. So I'd ask the board to
Excuse me.
just do a roll call vote for the meeting updates.
Okay.
So that's the end of your report?
For that one, and then the annual report is also included in what Jerry had sent you. Every year by state law, we're required to do an annual report, and basically it's a very boilerplate document that is updated every year, which includes all of the motions and resolutions and deals that have been passed by the Redevelopment Commission, includes salaries, includes the balances and income received in the various allocation areas, as well as bond payments that are made. And that is created primarily through SEH, who is our economic development consultant, and then uploaded into the Indiana Gateway on our behalf. So I guess asking the board to both ratify both the annual report as well as the updated meeting dates.
You want them to ratify them now?
Yes, please.
Do I need a motion for that?
I actually would like to amend it, and I'd like to have another 2 weeks or whatever to review it, since I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
It was due, well, let me put it this way. It was due to be uploaded previously because there's a state law as far as when it has to be uploaded.
Oh, that's what we're approving?
Mm-hmm.
I see.
So do I have a motion?
Is this document in you said it's in our email, correct?
That's correct.
All right.
It's long. 150 pages.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve this GRDC annual report?
Motion to approve.
Second. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other questions? A motion passes. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Sams,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yeah, abstain.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogie,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to number 19, report from Commission Attorney Gilbert King Jr. Your report, Attorney King?
No official report, just happy to say that I'm glad to have gone through our first virtual board meeting that seemed to have gone very well. So I'm very happy about that, and I'll see everybody at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Gil?
What's that?
You're working on the updates for the legal basis for having remote content,
Yeah, right.
Anyway,
Policy.
how long will it, do you anticipate how long it'll take to get through all that?
I'll have something
Hey.
to the board to review for the next meeting, before the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Attorney King? Okay, Commissioner's comments. Any comments, Commissioner Sims?
I think she's gone.
Here. I'm here.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes, no comments.
Okay, Commissioner Rogie,
No, I don't have any.
Commissioner Hall,
No comments?
Commissioner King.
No comment.
Okay, I have just a couple of comments. Thanks for a great meeting to all of you. Next meeting we've got a lot of economic development stuff in the hopper. Stuff that's going to come to fruition probably in Q2 and Q3. The first quarter of the year, I had about 40 meetings with different people who wanted to do business in Gary that are now coming to fruition. And that's it. Glad to be back on the commission doing this. School Board Representative, Mr. Johnson.
I just want to say thank you for welcoming me to the commission. And then also let's keep our high school seniors and our thoughts. You know, this was a tough year for them with prom being canceled, graduations canceled. So they're taking it pretty hard. So, you know, let's keep them in our thoughts.
Yes, we should.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And agenda items for the next board meeting, Mr. Bittner?
Besides the Dynamo contract, none yet.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, properly heard, motion, you know, it's said in second, roll call.
Madam, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Sims,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Ogie,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes,
Motion's carried.
thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good evening.
Good stuff.